Romania is a land shaped by the big plans of empires. Its story isn't one of quiet calm, but of big, often forceful clashes. Here, where many paths meet in Europe, the Roman soldiers fought with the strong tribes of Dacia. Large groups of people moving from place to place swept across its flat lands. The symbols of the Ottoman leaders faced the symbols of Christian rulers. For hundreds of years, this was a place where borders weren't just lines on a map, but changing edges of belief, language and power. To understand Romania is to understand a country defined by where it is on the map, like a fort of Latin culture surrounded by many Slavic and Hungarian neighbors. It's a people who have had to fight very hard just to be themselves. This is a history lived under the shadow of giants. The Habsburgs from the west, the Ottomans from the south, and the Russian leaders from the east all saw this land as something valuable, a safe zone, a place to be controlled. But from this constant pressure, something amazing was created. A strong and special way of being took root, grown in the forest-covered mountains and rich river valleys. The Romanian people learned to last, to change, and to wait for their chance. Their language, a gift from Rome, became a statement of how they were different. Their old stories, full of tales of heroes and spirits, kept alive a shared memory that no empire could erase. The fight wasn't just for land, it was a fight for the spirit of a nation. The story of Romania is therefore one of staying alive against very tough odds. It's a tale of how three separate regions, each with its own proud history, slowly found a common goal. They were brought together by a shared language, a common Christian faith, and a mutual wish to be free from foreign control. Their journey to becoming a single, independent country was long and full of danger. It was a path made with talking and fighting, with times of great victory and terrible defeat. This is the story of how a country was brought into being, just by the strong wish of its people for togetherness and to rule themselves. Every castle on a Romanian hilltop, every strong church in a Transylvanian village, tells a part of this story. They are reminders of a past where life was uncertain, where communities had to be ready to protect themselves very quickly. But they are also signs of staying power. They stand as proof of the people who built them, who held on through hundreds of years of trouble, and who passed down their culture and their hopes to the next generation. The history of Romania is written in stone and dirt, in the long poems of its writers and the simple faith of its farmers. It is a story of how a people, caught between powerful empires, made a home and an identity that is completely their own. Long before the Roman eagle symbols flew over its mountains, this land was the main area of the Dacians. They were a strong people from Thrace, known for their bravery and their deep spiritual beliefs. Under kings like Burebista and later Decebalus, they built a powerful kingdom that challenged the strength of the Roman Empire itself. The Dacians were skilled at working with metal and building things, making impressive forts called dave in the important mountain passes of the Carpathian Mountains. Their society was complex, their warriors were feared, and their kingdom was a constant worry for the emperors in Rome. They were a proud and independent people, protectors of a land rich in gold and silver, a prize that Rome couldn't ignore. The fight that had to happen came at the beginning of the 2nd century AD. Emperor Trajan, determined to make the empire's northern border safe and take Dacia's famous wealth, started 2 huge military campaigns. The wars were brutal and hard-fought, showing how fiercely King Decebalus and his warriors resisted. The story of this big conflict is carved in stone on Trajan's column in Rome, a detailed, winding story of the Roman takeover. In the year 106, after a brave but hopeless struggle, Dacia was finally conquered. Decebalus took his own life rather than be captured, and his kingdom became the Roman province of Dacia Felix, or Happy Dacia. Roman rule, even though it only lasted about 165 years, changed things a lot. Roman settlers, soldiers, and government workers poured into the new province, bringing their language, their laws, and their way of life. They built roads, cities, and water pipes, connecting Dacia to the huge network of the Roman world. A process of becoming Roman began, as the local Dacian people slowly started to fit in. They adopted the language of their conquerors, a type of everyday Latin, which would change over the centuries into the modern Romanian language. This language gift is perhaps Rome's most lasting present, something Romanians are very proud of. It makes them a Latin island in a mostly Slavic and Hungarian area. When the Roman soldiers finally left because of pressure from moving Goths and other tribes around 271 AD, they left behind a Daco-Roman population whose identity was changed forever. The seeds of a new people had been planted. For the next 1,000 years, as waves of Goths, Huns, Avars and Slavs swept over the land, these Latin-speaking people lasted. They went to the safety of the mountains and forests, keeping their language and their growing Christian faith. It was in this long, unclear time, often called the Dark Ages, that the Romanian people were truly born, their character shaped by the memory of Rome and the need to survive in a troubled world. From the remains of fallen empires and the mess of people moving around, 3 distinct Romanian regions started to form during the Middle Ages. In the south, tucked between the Danube River and the Carpathian Mountains, was Wallachia. To the east, reaching towards the Dniester River, lay Moldavia. And to the northwest, surrounded by the curve of the Carpathians, was Transylvania, a land that would soon come under the influence and control of the powerful Kingdom of Hungary. Each of these regions developed its own special character, its own noble families, and its own brave leaders, known as voivodes. They shared a common language and the Christian Orthodox faith, creating a cultural bond that went beyond their political differences. These regions appeared at a time of great danger. The big power coming from the south was the Ottoman Empire, a force that was steadily taking over the Balkans. The story of Wallachia and Moldavia in the 1400s and 1500s is one of constant, often desperate fighting against this wave. They became the frontline states of Christian Europe, their princes fighting an almost constant war to keep their independence. Rulers like Mircea the Elder of Wallachia and Stephen the Great of Moldavia became famous figures. They were brilliant army leaders and smart diplomats who, even though they were greatly outnumbered, caused surprising defeats for the mighty Ottoman armies, earning the respect of popes and kings across Europe. Perhaps the most famous, and definitely the most talked about of these rulers was Vlad III of Wallachia, better known as Vlad the Impaler. While his harsh methods inspired Bram Stoker's made-up Dracula, the real Vlad was a national hero to many Romanians. He was a cruel but effective protector of his homeland, a prince who fought fiercely against both Ottoman expansion and the ambitions of local nobles. His rule was a clear example of the harsh realities of that time. To survive, a ruler needed to be merciless. Figures like Vlad, Stephen the Great, and later Michael the Brave, who briefly brought all 3 regions together in 1600, became strong symbols of Romanian defiance and the lasting wish for independence. While Wallachia and Moldavia eventually became states that paid tribute to the Ottoman Empire, they were never fully taken over like other Balkan areas. They kept their own rulers, their laws, and their Christian faith, though it cost them a lot of money paid to the Sultan. Transylvania, meanwhile, took a different path. Under Hungarian and later Habsburg rule, it became a complex mix of cultures and religions. Alongside the majority Romanian Orthodox people lived Hungarian Catholics and Protestants, and German Saxon Lutherans. This variety created a rich cultural blend, but also planted the seeds of future ethnic problems, as the Romanian population often faced unfair treatment in politics and religion. The 1900s were a time of new ideas, and honestly, the strongest of these was nationalism. All over Europe, people who shared a language, culture, and history started to dream of forming their own countries. This idea took a strong hold among the Romanian thinkers in Wallachia, Moldavia, and Transylvania. They looked to their shared Roman past and their common fight against foreign empires as the reason for a united Romanian nation. This cultural and intellectual awakening, known as the National Renaissance, really set the important groundwork for political action. Writers, poets, and historians reminded the people of their great past and showed them a vision of a united future. The wave of revolutions that swept across Europe in 1848 gave the first big chance to make these dreams real. Uprisings broke out in all 3 Romanian lands, asking for political freedom, social changes, and national unity. In Bucharest and Iași, revolutionaries briefly took power, while in Transylvania, Romanians led by Avram Iancu fought for their rights against the Hungarian revolutionary government. Even though these revolutions were eventually crushed by the combined forces of the Ottoman, Russian, and Austrian empires, the spirit of unity could not be put out. The dream of a single Romanian state had been born, and, well, the desire for it only grew stronger in the years that followed. The key moment came in 1859 after the Crimean War, which had made Russian and Ottoman power in the region weaker. The big powers of Europe agreed that Wallachia and Moldavia could have separate meetings to choose their own leaders. In a very smart political move, both meetings chose the very same man, Colonel Alexandru Ioan Cuza. By this clever act, the two regions were joined in a personal union, creating a new state that would soon be known as Romania. Cuza was a forward-thinking ruler who started many big changes, making the government more modern, starting universities, and most importantly, freeing the serfs, which set the stage for a modern society. Cuza's rule, however, was cut short in 1866, when he was forced to step down by a group of conservative and liberal politicians who felt his rule had become too controlling. They looked for a foreign prince who would have stronger ties to the big powers of Europe and could better secure the young nation's future. They found their man in Karl of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen, a German prince who became Carol I of Romania. It was under his long and stable rule that Romania's journey to full independence was completed. In 1877, Romania fought alongside Russia against the Ottoman Empire in the War of Independence, and its bravery on the battlefield finally earned it full, internationally recognized independence in 1878. The modern nation of Romania had finally arrived on the map of Europe. The newly independent Kingdom of Romania entered the 1900s with a strong national goal: to unite all Romanian-speaking people into one country. This dream, however, was not yet complete. Many Romanian people still lived outside the kingdom's borders, mainly in Transylvania, which was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and in Bessarabia, which was under Russian rule. The goal of creating Romania Mare, or Greater Romania, became the main focus of the nation's foreign policy. This ambition would place Romania at the center of the huge political storm that was about to break over Europe, the First World War. The conflict presented a terrible problem but also a historic chance. When war started in 1914, Romania at first stayed neutral. The country was torn between its cultural connections to France and its German king, Carol I. The Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary, tempted Romania with the promise of Bessarabia if it joined their side. The Allied powers, France, Britain, and Russia, made a more appealing offer: Transylvania. For 2 years, Romania thought about its choices. Finally, in August 1916, encouraged by Allied promises and the belief that the Allies would eventually win, Romania declared war on Austria-Hungary and joined the Entente. The nation entered the war with great excitement, determined to achieve its long-held dream of national unity. The military campaign, however, began with disaster. Not well equipped and not ready for a two-front war against both German and Austro-Hungarian forces from the north and Bulgarian forces from the south, the Romanian army was quickly overwhelmed. German forces took over Bucharest, and the Romanian government, army, and royal family were forced into a desperate retreat into the northeastern region of Moldavia. The winter of 1916 to 1917 was a time of great suffering, marked by losses in battle, sickness, and lack of food. Yet, the Romanian army, with the help of a French military group, managed to get back together and in the summer of 1917 put up a heroic fight at the battles of Marasesti and Oituz, stopping the enemy advance and saving the country from total collapse. The war's chaotic end brought a dramatic change of luck. The collapse of the Russian Empire allowed Bessarabia to announce its joining with Romania. Then, as the Austro-Hungarian Empire fell apart in the autumn of 1918, Romanian leaders in Bukovina and, most importantly, in Transylvania, also declared their joining with the Kingdom of Romania. On December 1, 1918, a great national meeting in the city of Alba Iulia happily announced the unification of Transylvania with Romania. This date is now celebrated as Romania's National Day. The peace agreements after the war confirmed these land gains, and Romania came out of the war more than doubled in size and population. The dream of Romania Mare had become real, but it brought with it the huge challenge of bringing together diverse new areas and managing many different ethnic groups, like Hungarians, Germans, and Jews. The time between the two world wars for Greater Romania was a lively but unstable period. It was a time of cultural growth, but also one of political trouble and growing extreme views. The dream of a united nation was tested by the economic difficulties of the Great Depression and the increasing threat of fascism, both inside and outside the country. When the Second World War began, Romania found itself in an impossible situation, caught between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. In 1940, under great pressure, Romania was forced to give Bessarabia to the Soviets and a large part of Transylvania to Hungary. This national shame led to the rise of a military dictator, Marshal Ion Antonescu, who allied Romania with Hitler's Germany, hoping to get back the lost territories. Romanian soldiers fought alongside the German army on the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union, a decision that would have terrible results. The war brought immense suffering, including Romania's dark period of taking part in the Holocaust. As the war turned, and the Soviet Red Army moved westward, King Michael I, in a brave move on August 23, 1944, had Antonescu arrested and switched Romania's side to the Allies. The Romanian army then fought against its former German allies until the end of the war. Despite this late change of sides, Romania could not escape its fate. The country was freed by the Soviet army, which meant it was actually taken over. The peace agreements after the war returned Transylvania to Romania but confirmed the loss of Bessarabia to the USSR. The Soviet presence made sure the Romanian Communist Party quickly rose to power. Through threats, fake elections, and getting rid of all political opponents, the Communists took complete control. In 1947, King Michael was forced to step down, and the Romanian People's Republic was announced. The country was now firmly behind the Iron Curtain. The early years of communism were marked by harsh, cruel rule. The government took over all industries, forced farmers to join collective farms, and put in prison or killed tens of thousands of thinkers, priests, former politicians, and anyone seen as an enemy of the people. Romania's connections to the West were cut off, and its culture was forcibly changed to be like the Soviet Union's. In 1965, Nicolae Ceaușescu came to power, at first presenting himself as a more independent nationalist communist. He famously spoke out against the 1968 Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia, earning him praise and money from the West. This, however, was just a show. At home, he built one of the most controlling and strange personality cults in the Eastern Bloc. His government became more and more tyrannical and isolated. A huge network of secret police, the Securitate, watched every part of life. His huge projects, like the massive palace of the parliament in Bucharest, made the country go broke, leading to severe shortages of food and energy for the people in the 1980s. While other communist countries started to change, Ceaușescu's Romania went into a dark, cold, and fearful isolation. By December 1989, the people of Romania had been pushed to their breaking point. The Berlin Wall had fallen, and communism was falling apart across Eastern Europe, but Nicolae Ceaușescu remained stubborn. The spark of revolution was lit in the western city of Timișoara, when a protest against the eviction of a popular ethnic Hungarian pastor, Laszlo Tokes, grew into a large anti-government demonstration. Ceaușescu's security forces responded with deadly force, killing dozens of protesters. The killing, however, did not stop the rebellion. It started it. News of the deaths spread across the country, helped by foreign radio stations like Radio Free Europe, and the people's long-held anger finally exploded. The peak came on December 21st, when Ceaușescu held a big rally in Bucharest, intending to show his popular support. Instead, the crowd turned against him. For the first time, the chants of praise were replaced by boos and jeers. The live television broadcast was cut, but the revolution had begun in the capital. The next day, as huge crowds stormed the Central Committee building, Ceaușescu and his wife Elena fled by helicopter from the roof. Their escape was short-lived. They were caught, put through a brief televised show trial, and executed by a firing squad on Christmas Day. The violent and chaotic end of the Ceaușescu government was shown around the world, a shocking symbol of the end of harsh rule in Romania. The change from decades of dictatorship to democracy was not easy. The years after the revolution were marked by political instability, economic hardship, and social division, as the country struggled to take apart the communist systems and build a free market society. There were arguments about the role of former communists in the new government and difficult times dealing with the crimes of the Securitate. Yet despite these huge challenges, Romania steadily followed a path of joining with the West. The final goals were clear: to rejoin the family of European democracies and secure the country's future by becoming a member of NATO and the European Union. Today, Romania is a changed country. It joined NATO in 2004 and the European Union in 2007, firmly connecting itself to the democratic West. While problems of corruption and the need for continued changes to its systems remain, the progress is clear. Romania is a lively democracy with a dynamic culture that mixes its old traditions with modern European influences. Its beautiful landscapes, from the painted monasteries of Bukovina to the untouched Danube Delta and the grand Carpathian Mountains, attract visitors from all over the world. The journey has been long and hard, a history of lasting through empires and surviving dictators, but through it all, the Romanian people have kept their unique Latin identity, coming into the 21st century with a story of deep strength and a strong pride in the nation they have built.